The college football playoff is more than likely moving to 14 teams. We talked about it yesterday. Things became a little bit more official today, but you have all 9 FBS conferences plus Notre Dame. That's a key factor there. You got Notre Dame on board too. They have agreed to the next college football playoff contract that's going to start in 2026. So you got that 12-team model, 2024 and 2025. 2026, it looks like, is going to be 14 teams. The format, it looks like it's going to be, I say looks like is probably the wrong phrasing. The thing that's being floated and the thing that it sounds like is getting talked about the most is a format of 14 teams, 5 highest-ranked conference champions, and 9 at-large bids. Hear me clearly. That is not final. That is not official. That is purely a rumor that got thrown in the article that I read, so that's what we're going off of right now. We'll see what happens there. How do we feel about this? Well, you know how I feel about this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you more clearly the lies that you're about to hear when it comes to this college football playoff format and what it's going to mean for the sport. All right, so before we get there, make sure you're subscribed. There's a lot going on in this sport. There's a lot of folks that they leave right around January, December, right when their team stops playing ball, and they say, okay, we'll come back in the August time. We'll come back when they start playing games again. If you're one of those people, don't be one of those people anymore, because we want y'all locked in with us, because stuff like this is happening throughout the course of this offseason, if we can say that. Spring football's happening. Want y'all subscribed. Want y'all a part of this college football community. So thank you in advance for being dialed in. Like I said, man, dishonesty. There's a lot of it in the air right now. There's a lot of folks that are going to try and give you a couple different things that they believe. Maybe they believe, maybe they don't believe. A couple things to try and convince you why the college football playoff is going to be a good thing for the sport when they expand to 14 teams. We were on the front line saying keep it at 4. 4 is a fine number. Some people wanted it less than 4. Some people wanted 6. Bottom line, expanding the playoff is not good for the sport for a number of reasons, but there are some things that people are going to tell you to try and convince you that it is good for the sport. One of the first lies you're going to hear, hey, this is great for the little guy. More parity in the sport. That's just not true. Currently in the 4-team format, you have to win 2 games to be a national champion. So think about Cincinnati. When they were a G5 team, they went on that run, got to the playoff. That was the G5's best chance to win a national championship. Why? Because you just had to win 2 games. Now when a G5 team makes the college football playoff, you got to win 4 games. So even if you play well and win that first-round game against whatever power conference opponent it is, you got to win the next one. You see what I'm saying here? It becomes a lot more of a steep climb to get it done. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'd love to see it happen. I'm glad that there's a G5 team more than likely going to be able to have a bid into this college football playoff format, but to assume that it's somehow helping them, college football is not college basketball. March Madness, you can have someone get hot and, go crazy from the three-point line, and maybe that's kind of your equalizer. That's not necessarily the kind of playing field it is when it comes to college football. You got 11 on 11, big boys up front. There's not really that equalizer of the three-point line, in my opinion. I think the physicality of it vastly favors those power conference teams that recruit like power conference teams, getting those big bodies. So it helps the little guy. That is a lie. That is not true. Other thing you're going to hear now, we talked about it on yesterday's video as well, more meaningful football games. That I think is like the most talked about lie you're going to hear. Hey, this is great. You got games in December and January mattering instead of that Pop-Tarts Bowl nonsense. First of all, we love and respect the Pop-Tarts Bowl on this show. Second of all, that's not true, because what you're trying to tell me is, okay, more meaningful games in December and January, just because they have the playoff label on them, doesn't mean they're more meaningful. It means they matter, of course, in that exact moment, and they're sudden death, and so that's, in a lot of ways, extremely meaningful. But think about the regular season. For the entire existence, really, of college football, the regular season has been what has essentially been the full playoff format. Like, if it was in the BCS era, you lost 1 game, that was essentially a playoff loss. Maybe you still had a chance to get in, but you didn't control your own destiny. Kind of the same thing in the 4-team playoff. If you lost 2 games, you were out of there. If you lost 1, you still had a chance, but that's kind of the sentiment I want us to get home here. The regular season, having more playoff games, devalues those 12 games that you play. Okay, so it's not great. It's not great. We don't love that. You're going to hear a lot of people try and shame you and say, well, you don't want to see more football games played? Of course we want to see more football games played. We just want Michigan, Ohio State to matter as much as possible. We want Florida State to matter as much as possible. So hear me clearly. Those games are the ones that have always mattered. Those 12 games matter less because you added more games to the back half of the season and you made that field much wider to get into. So that's that. Other thing you're going to hear, this makes sure, this adding more teams to the college football playoff, this ensures that there is not a situation like we just had this last year where Florida State gets left out. Now, the true statement within that is, yeah, if you're an undefeated power conference champion, you're probably getting in. Not probably, you're definitely getting in to a 14-team playoff. But here's the thing. As long as there is a committee, there's going to be gray area, there's going to be opinion involved, there's going to be subjectivity, someone's going to be disappointed. Someone's going to feel like they kind of got the raw end of the deal here. You know what? They're probably going to have a really good case for it. Like, as we go to 14 teams, guess what? That 15th team that was right on the border, they're going to have a good win or a better loss or a more impressive win, or they're going to have a different stat that favors them over that team that got in at the 14th spot or the 13th spot, or they'll have a head-to-head over the team that got in at the 9th spot. Like, someone's always going to feel like they should have gotten in as long as we have a playoff that keeps a certain amount of people out of the playoff. Like, everybody can't get in. As long as we're not making it an automatic qualifier thing across the board, as long as there's at-large bids, there is going to be somebody left out and have a really valid case for why they should be in. So it was Florida State this year, and that was wild, and that was something that I think a lot of folks disagreed with, which is totally fair, but like, this is not a thing that we're somehow just going to erase fan base's feeling slighted, or somehow this feeling of, oh man, that was unfair to me. That's not going anywhere for the reasons I just said. So they're not done expanding this thing either. Like, we're talking about 14 today. I wouldn't be surprised if this time next year we're talking about 16. We're talking about 24. And the reason for that being, the people that run college football are not college football fans. What they are fans of is stuff in their pockets. And like, that's fine. Make your money. Do what you want to do. But the thing about this is, too much money is never enough money. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're never going to be like, you know what? We got our private island. We got as many private jets as we want. We got the Ferrari, we got the Porsche, we got the Lambo. They're never going to say, yep, that's good with us. We got enough. They're going to say, okay, well, what if we expanded? We could make some more money that way. More games, more inventory, more revenue. That's the way these people operate. And so I would venture to guess, if you put college football fans in charge of the sport, the playoff format would, at the very least, evolved at a different pace. I have to believe we wouldn't have jumped from 12 to 14 before even playing the 12-team format. But I'm telling you right now, they're not done expanding this thing. This is the tip of the iceberg. There's more money to be made for more games. We'll see where we land at. I think we will continue to expand until we find some sort of governance over college football as a whole. Until we get a commissioner, this thing is going to keep expanding because these people can keep making money. So it is what it is. But to recap it for you, the playoff lies you're going to hear. This playoff helps the little guy. Cinderella happens in March Madness. It's not going to happen in this college football playoff with 14 teams. More meaningful football games. Just because you put the playoff label on it doesn't mean you get more meaningful games. You get more playoff games, but those meaningful games that used to happen in the regular season, the value there goes down a little bit. Last part, this ensures that Florida State and their tragedy from this past year, which, let's be real, that was an extremely unfair thing that happened, whether you think they should have gotten in or not. You feel for the folks in Tallahassee. It's still going to happen. As long as opinion is involved, at-large bids are involved, committees are involved, someone's going to feel slighted, and that's kind of the way that this thing works. So we'll see where we land at, but just keep your head in the swivel right now for all these playoff lies that we're getting as the college football playoff expanding to 14 in 2026. We'll see where we are after that. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.